Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. As you can tell, I just took a shower, so excuse me if I look a little bit fresher than I usually do in my videos. Um, we are now in August, and by the looks of it, the summer season is pretty much over. There's a few films here and there that will be coming out, namely Ninja Turtles, which we just reviewed on this channel. So if you guys want to check out that review, go check it out. Um, but I wanted to do a little bit of a recap from this summer because I feel like people are going to misinterpret how this summer really did, and that is that I think that um, it's a prediction that I made before the summer started, and sadly, that prediction was met, which is that this box office was, at least particularly this summer, was very poor. And I'm gonna go through it, go through all the big releases one by one, and list out the ones that actually did make a profit and were the ones that they did make profit, and so you can compare the successes versus the failures, and you'll see that the failures outweigh the successes when it comes to the summer. So so let's just dive right in. So we start up in May, where we were introduced to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as the first of the offerings this summer. It had a budget of $250 million, and the results were $843.9 million, which obviously means it broke even, and it made like maybe $100 million extra. So that is a success right there. So first film out the gate this summer, success. Then you jump over to Fast X, which had a budget of $340 million, and its budget, or its box office so far as I've checked it, is $720.2 million. Now, a lot of people would consider this a success, and quite frankly, it's not, because if you look at a budget like that, which is $340 million, $720 million, you lost a lot of money. That's a film that should have made $1 billion, in order to turn a profit. It should have done like Avatar numbers, but it didn't. And we already talked about why the budgets were super high in a video I did a while ago. I'll link it at the end of this video so you guys can check it out. But yeah, that movie lost a lot of money, despite what the media might tell you. So that's a failure, even though they're moving forward with a sequel. But whatever. The Little Mermaid, which had a budget of $250 million, brought in a box office take of $561 million, which did not break even. According to my research, it actually was supposed to make at least $625 to break even. So no, so it lost money, and yeah, so that's two failures against one success. But now to even them out, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which had a budget of $100 million and brought in $677.2 million. So that obviously is a huge success. Made at least, like I said, like with Guardians, like at least $100 million extra. Just broke even, and here's just the rest. For future budgets and stuff like that, or extra money lying around. So made a lot of money right there. So that's two successes versus two failures. So now let's move on. Transformers: Rise of the Beast had a budget of around $200 million and had a box office take of at least $427.7 million. So yeah, obviously did not break even. And of course, the infamous one in the summer, The Flash, which had a budget of $210 million and brought in a box office take, as far as I've seen so far, $268.1 million. So obviously a huge, huge failure for Warner Brothers. I actually heard it was like their worst in history. So hopefully you guys don't work with Ezra Miller again. Just saying. There's really no reason to be working with him now. So yeah, huge, huge failure there in The Flash. And then to add another failure to the list, Elemental, which had a budget of $200 million and as far as I've seen, has brought in a box office of $394.9 million. Obviously not a success there. Has lost a good 100 million for Pixar and Disney. So yeah, that's a failure right there. For another, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny had a budget of 295 million and brought in a box office of $356.1 million. Lost a shit ton of money for Disney there. So yeah. To add another to the list, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, which I thought was just a snooze. And apparently a lot of people thought the same thing because it had a budget of 70 million and has so far made at least 38.8 million. So yeah, that's a failure. And to add a success to the list, Insidious. I know and people are like, really, Insidious? But I mean, it counts. Insidious, The Red Door, had a budget of 16 million and it's brought in over $100 million. So it's a huge success right there. You know, and it's funny because I forgot that Insidious came out this year. So, but you know, with a budget like that, 16 million, and with having a notable title, you're gonna get some people, and it's a horror film. You know, people will drive out to see a horror film. So, to add another failure to the list, people don't talk about this as a failure for some reason, but it absolutely is. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. It had a budget of 291 million, and so far it's only made 448.5 million. So as far as I'm concerned, that movie has lost a shit ton of money, at least a good 100 million. Because with a budget of 291, you're needing to make at least like what 800, 900 million to break even. And I know they marketed the hell out of that movie, so yeah, that's a failure right there. Despite what the media may or may not say, that's a failure. So, now for successes, we have Barbie, which I'm not surprised, honestly, by how well it's doing, just because people are sadistic. But I mean, here we are. So it had a budget of 135, and so far it's racked up 774.5 million. So it's obviously broken even. It's made extra money, so huge success right there for Warner Brothers. Oppenheimer, which everybody is getting the budget wrong. It's not 100 million. Nolan has stated that it's 180. If you look up interviews, he stated it's 180, so I don't know why people are saying it's 100 million. It's not. You have to consider the cast and all that, so 180 makes a lot more sense. So, excuse me. It had a budget of 180 million, as far as I'm concerned, and it's made at least 400 million. So it hasn't broken even yet, but it has to make it like at least 500 to 600 million, at least from what I can see, to break even. So it'll make it. I think that it'll make it. So, but we'll see. And then to add another failure, a recent failure to the list, Haunted Mansion, which just came out, had a budget of 150 million and it just opened to 33.3 million. And as far as I'm concerned, anyway, considering what's coming out this week, today being when this video comes out, Friday, I don't think it's going to be making any more money than that. So. And then this movie hasn't come out yet, but I really think this is going to be the last film that probably will be considered a success or actually makes a good amount of money, which is Ninja Turtles. It has a budget of 70 million. So I think that it actually will. I think that it will make profit, honestly, because it's small budget. It's a kid appeal IP, so I think that people will come out and see it. So let's recap. So Guardians, a success. Spider-Man, a success. Insidious, a success. Barbie, a success. Oppenheimer, not yet a success, but probably will be a success. And Ninja Turtles. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 movies in the summer that performed well and have turned a profit. Now let's list out the failures. We have Fast X, we have Little Mermaid, we have Transformers, Rise of the Beast, we have The Flash, we have Elemental, we have Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Haunted Mansion. And that's not even listing the other films that have not come out yet, which more than likely will not perform well. Like, for example, the Meg 2, which I am confident in saying will probably not make money. But again, people are sadistic, so they might check it out. They might. That's more than likely a maybe. Gran Turismo, I don't believe will make money. It's not a good movie either. Blue Beetle, I've heard will not make money, and Strays, I feel confident saying will probably not make money. Um, so you have six successes against. Let me check real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 failures, guys. So what I'm illustrating here is that just because the media makes it out a certain way, like, oh, look, the theaters are back and the summer is thriving, these are caveats. These are like some examples against really what is a failure of a summer. All these movies that I have listed have not turned a profit, and the media doesn't. I don't know why the media is not really talking about it. They only really talked about it when the Flash bombed. Everything else, they just kind of went, oh well, that was just one weekend. It's like, no, this whole summer has been mostly duds and failures, and the films that I've mentioned that were successes are caveats. They're just, they're, people who didn't, were not part of the shitstorm that was this year or this season. So, and also, all these movies, generally speaking, have the ones that that are successes. They usually have are catering to a certain pleasure that audiences have. Their audiences are very specific with what they like. When it comes to Guardians and Spider-Man, those are franchises that people love, so you're automatically going to be getting them in there. Insidious, it's a horror film. I mean, that's all you need to know. It's a horror film. It's a horror film, and it's also a notable-ish IP. So, so there's that. Barbie, people are just fucking sadistic. That's it. People are just fucking sadistic. They're just morbidly curious to see what the fuck is going on. Oppenheimer, I think it's just literally because it's the whole Twitter bullshit that happened with oh, what movie will make more money sort of thing. So that's why people went to see Oppenheimer. And Ninja Turtles, I think, is going to be aiming for that nostalgia element and hitting on a certain feel that I think that will attract audiences, and also namely kids who will drag their parents to come see this. So so all these have are all within the same proximity, I guess. With all the other films, it just illustrates that people are just not really caring too much. They don't care about seeing another Mission Impossible for a while, or Indiana Jones. Comic book movies, despite the two that did well, there is a fatigue going on, whether people want to admit to it or not. It's just that these two movies, Spider-Man and Guardians, they've set up themselves, to where people do generally like those movies. It's not that they've, made, movies that are like all the same or whatever like that. They've grown an audience that, will show up for those movies. Whereas something like The Flash or anything like that, people just don't generally seem to care, So it's a very, very specific feeling to hit, and it's, as far as I can see, only potentially six of those films have hit that feeling, and the rest have not. So I'm not sure what's going on with the media, but this is not been a good summer at all. It's been pretty poor, and A lot of that has to do with what we've talked about before, which is the theatrical window being shorter. Also, people just lacking a desire to go to the theater. Having streaming more, relying more on streaming. Um, you know, um, it's not just the quality of the movies. It's not just the overall quality of a film. Because Mission Impossible, people seem to really like, but that movie is bombing. Um, so yeah. So I don't subscribe to that theory. I think that it's more or less that people are tired of going to the theater and they're just becoming very, very selective of what movies they'll see. And I think that it has everything to do with existing IPs and the knowledge of that existing IP, like how much they like that franchise, how much they're invested into it, and I guess just overall expectation. You know, like they believe that movie will be good, and that it's worth going out to see. You know, where all these other films, people just generally just don't seem to give a crap about, at least based on my observation. And also, like I said, what do all these movies have in common? We've talked about this before. All these movies have a bunch of fucking color and visuals because people like seeing pretty pictures. They don't like to see artistry. They don't like to see all these other things. They want to see pretty colors and pretty visuals. Because most audiences have the mentalities or the expectations of a child, you know. Guardians looks pretty or has like a lot of colors. Spider-Man obviously has a lot of color and visuals. Insidious, Insidious is like, I would say probably the outlier to that because horror is just a given, and that's a genre that's going to grow into the next, like that's going to be the next thing. Superheroes are that thing right now. Horror is going to be that next thing in the future. So that's just, it's just a, just a, what is it like that's just something that's a guarantee, and it's going to continue to grow as time goes on. Barbie, again, a lot of color. Oppenheimer, like I said, that one probably because of the Twitter fucking shit, but whatever. Ninja Turtles, lots of color. So most of these films rely on that mentality. And that's what people are more curious to see is just what does it look pretty? Does it look like something that I want to see? Or are people online talking about it in a certain way? That's what gets people to go to the theater nowadays. It's not about general interest. It's not about this and that. People rely more on, on how something literally looks, versus, just making a general assessment. Does it look pretty? Sure, then I'll show up. If it doesn't, then obviously, based on this summer, people will not show up. So yeah, went on a bit of a ramble. So hopefully my point was made. But yeah, this summer, as far as I'm concerned, has not been doing well. And despite what the media might tell you, it's not a success. It's more or less a failure. There are successes in there, but those successes are exceptions and not, an example of how the summer has been. It's just, it's just like, oh, okay, those films did well, but let's not ignore the films that did really, really poor, and that is a lot of them. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on the box office. It's just not good. But you guys let me know your thoughts on the box office. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We've got more videos down the pipe, so just be on the lookout for that. And yeah, so that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.